Hello and welcome to Out of Time Productions E3 2012 Extravaganza, now illegal in 14 states. I am your host, Christopher Lowell.
I am Johnny Golia.
And my name is Ji-Yoon Kim.
And neither of them matter. Today we are going to be covering all the major conferences, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, all presented in the first 2 days of E3. There were a lot of big announcements, but nothing in the way of hardware. We are also going to be covering EA, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Konami, Capcom, Koei, and Namco Bandai, I believe, had a couple of good releases this year. We're going to start with Microsoft. Microsoft's big announcement here was obviously Halo 4. Halo 4 is an improvement on Halo 3's online multiplayer and graphics engine. A lot of balance issues were addressed in the competitive community's eyes. Did either of you get a chance to really look at Halo 4?
Just a little bit of what I saw at last year's E3. I actually missed the beginning of the conference, unfortunately, but I saw a little bit, and it looked kind of cool.
One of the major things they were talking about is story-wise. They wanted to mention 4 years ago they made some sort of peace, and the enemy this time isn't the Covenant, which is a large departure for the Halo series. Other than the Flood, we haven't seen any sort of alien enemies outside of the Covenant, so I'm not sure where they're going with that. In the other realms of people shooting other people, we have Splinter Cell Blacklist, where Sam Fisher returns and you get to yell at him via the Kinect.
That sounds a little bit interesting. Yeah.
Well, they're planning on turning it into a gameplay mechanic. They're going to have you be able to use the voice as a distraction or command squad mates.
So I guess it's like they're going all out on the Kinect, I guess?
Well, that was a major theme for a lot of Microsoft stuff. We'll talk about that a lot later. But as far as Splinter Cell in particular goes, there's a lot of mechanics they plan to include the Kinect in, mostly in the voice realm. They're not really going for the motion control, which goes with the concept of an FPS really just being tied to that controller. I really think that's one of the big reasons that Kinect feels sort of shoehorned into a lot of these FPS games, is that traditionally it's a controller, and there's not a lot of good ways to include motion control in that.
Yeah. The Kinect whole concept doesn't really make sense for FPS games, because what are you going to do? You're going to point your arm at the computers, at the TV screen? I mean, if they can get it so that it's one-to-one responsive, that would be great, but I don't think the technology is really there yet. Whereas with something like the Wiimote or the PlayStation Move controller, it makes more sense. Although I think most people would rather just use a controller, because rather than flailing their arms around like an idiot, and they're going to get tired after a while from doing that, I think it's better to just have it with a controller.
Sure. The one-to-one correspondence with movement isn't really the big concern. I think what you mentioned with the PlayStation Move particularly is that there's sort of a physical object in your hand that you're manipulating. It's an FPS. You have a gun in your hand or a knife or some other weapon. It feels more natural with body movement to have a physical object in your hand. Ji-Yoon, your thoughts?
I honestly think that like the Kinect is kind of a good approach for some people. They might have gotten tired of using a controller, and they might want to try something new. And
are you saying this will bring a new audience to FPSs?
Oh yeah, I could say that. I mean, it's going to be a first stepping stone for anything. Everything's got to start somewhere. And I think Kinect is probably the first approach where the whole 4D style of gaming is going to happen in the future.
I think a lot of these motion controls are targeted at family audiences, and it's not going to really translate over well the FPSs. I think it'll bring in a new audience, but the targeting at families is not where FPSs want to be. A lot of them are, obviously, you're shooting people. It's a mature game.
Right.
Moving on, we also had a release of Gears of War Judgement, otherwise known as Gears of War, same thing the fourth time.
Can't say much personally. I've seen a little bit of Gears of War. It looks cool. Other than that, I don't know much about the game.
Because we like strapping guns onto our chainsaws, or chainsaws onto our guns. Which one do you think it is?
I like the one with the chainsaw and cutting down orcs and locusts. They're the same thing, actually.
Yeah. They just rename everything these days. Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I'm not sure where they're really going with that one. The Call of Duty franchise is starting to wear out its welcome with a lot of people. We've had multiple releases of Modern Warfare, none of which are substantively different from the previous ones, and now we're having Black Ops 2, which is where they took their only departure from the series as normal and turned it into a sequel.
That sounds like a lot of people are gonna play probably the zombie games that used to come out for Black Ops 1.
Oh, the zombie minigame that was originally, I believe
It was in World at War.
It was in World at War, I believe, was the first release of it.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into its own downloadable game,
Right.
I believe.
I think so.
Was that available on only Xbox Live?
I don't remember that.
Or was it also available on PSN?
It was also on PSN.
It was also on PSN, so they took a multi-platform approach to the same thing everybody's been doing for the last 5 years. That is it really for the FPS department. Moving on, we have a lot of focus on the Kinect this year for the Xbox. And their big proprietary title that they were going to talk about was Racketeer. And that is basically Angry Birds. Honestly.
In 3D.
The concept is you control a ballista or some other siege weapon by using your body parts to pull it back, to aim it, to do whatever, and crush some castles. And in the realm of Castle Crushers, Angry Birds, and pretty much every destroy object with flying projectile game we've seen in the last 5 years, Angry Birds pretty much took the App Store by storm, and everybody's been trying to copy it since and put their own little spin on it. But how many times can you really do the same game?
Can probably get repetitive.
I mean, is this going to? This is going to be, I believe, a downloadable title.
Right. It was going to be an Xbox Live title. Now, honestly, I think it is going to sell because, as cliche as it may be, people seem to love it. People have bought every reiteration of Angry Birds that there is, and a lot of people have bought into the ones that tried to mimic or jump on the success of Angry Birds. So I think this is going to sell just as much. People like destroying stuff.
It's probably just a kill time.
And it also brings a somewhat novel concept of using the Kinect controls to do it. I personally would rather just use a controller to destroy stuff, but I think a lot of people would like to, see how the Kinect is integrated with it.
The other use for the Kinect, as I mentioned before with Splinter Cell, is going to be for sports games with the voice controls. EA presented at its conference Madden 13 and FIFA 2013 that are going to use the voice controls in the Kinect. Now, Madden has the obvious use of calling plays with the Kinect, being able to call an audible play. I'm not a football fan. I'm not really sure if that's what it's called. Besides that, FIFA 13 is going to include yelling at the ref. Now, any game that allows me to yell at a ref that's going to give me a red card is rather impressive. And if it works out as planned, I really think that there is some potential for sports games to include a lot more communication with the AI. And yelling at the ref is always funny.
Do they allow you to punch a ref?
I'm not sure if they allow you to punch the ref. Although if I got a red card, I would punch the ref because what do I have to lose? That's just silly, arguing with the ref via the Kinect. I don't like my sports games that realistic.
I have questions about how well that's going to be implemented. Like, how well is the game actually going to respond to what you're saying? How is it going to translate what you're saying? Is it going to say things like, "I don't understand what you're saying," similar to how a phone automated system would when you're calling a company? Is it going to work, basically?
That is a major...
And how does it respond to profanity?
Well, I believe if you're yelling at the ref, it would respond to profanity. I mean, at least they got to recognize that much.
Yes.
The other thing they want to do, going with the realm of sports, but not necessarily continuing the same vein, is Nike Plus. Nike Plus was put out for the Kinect, or at least the tech demo was. And the concept is you can do various exercises in front of the Kinect, and it will record your movements. It will give you tips on how to exercise better, how to stretch your muscles, and it will keep calorie counts and something called Nike Fuel. They had a wristband that took care of this. Their own proprietary system. They've been selling for about $150, but if they can integrate this in the Kinect, they can get into a lot more markets. As far as other media on the Xbox goes, Microsoft's push really has been to make the Xbox the center of your home media experience. They've done a lot by integrating it with Verizon Fios, with Comcast cable, They're starting to get Hulu, Netflix. Who else? What other media services have been integrated recently?
It would probably be Amazon Video as well.
Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, they got Amazon Prime. Yep.
But now
ESPN 360.
Yeah, they mentioned that they're actually going to push a lot of the ESPN services.
Yeah.
They mentioned ESPN 1, 2, 3, HD, some of the other ESPN college channels. They're going to put those on Xbox Media and try to integrate those with the television channels. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be part of a TV service or whether that's going to be its own little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if they can get a lot of sports channels to do their own independent coverage, it would be a thing that a lot of people would sign up for, even if they're not interested in just getting the cable service through their Xbox. Another big announcement they made is the death of Microsoft's Zune service. Now, it's not really a death, more of a rebirth into what they call the Xbox Music Service. They're going to make over 30 million songs available.
Sounds
via,
like iTunes.
That's the thing. I'm not sure it's going to be a competitor to iTunes, but it's going to be available on all the same platforms iTunes is. Even though it is called Xbox Music, this is part of Microsoft's attempt to rebrand all their media with the Xbox name. And I'm not sure whether that's going to be a successful strategy. I realize they want to bring all the home media into one name, one service, and put it all on your Xbox. So your Xbox can be your set-top box, your music service, your streaming movies, your internet access. They're integrating Internet Explorer 10 with the Xbox coming soon. They're going to improve Bing search using the Kinect. Bing. Bing.
Bing.
Bing. So that is really all that Xbox has to offer in the media department. As their newest innovation is the smart glass concept. And
This is cool.
this is really cool. They want to integrate your Xbox experience with your tablet, your phone, your mobile PC, any other computer you might have. The concept being that you can have a tablet, whether it's an iPad or an Android tablet or a Windows Metro tablet or a phone, again, Windows, Android, iOS, and it connects directly to your Xbox and is a supplement to whatever you happen to be doing. If you're playing Halo 4, you can have your stats card pulled up on your iPad. If you are playing a game, you can have your Windows Phone out and tweet with screenshots from in the game while you're playing. And I really think that they could go far with integration, not necessarily like what the Wii U wants to do with a tablet sort of thing as a controller, but with the tablet or the phone as a supplement to the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think this just opens a whole world of possibilities for some great innovations out there. I mean, you know, not only with what Chris was just mentioning about it's supplementing the game, but you can also use it to control certain things. Like, you know, say you're watching a video online on Hulu, you can now pause, fast forward, and rewind with your iPad or iPhone. You can see additional information about the movie that you're watching on your mobile device. Things like that, I think, are just, you know, going to be great. You know, you can maybe do things like watch the same movie but from different angles, similar to how they do that on DVDs. Well, now you can watch a different angle on your iPad. I mean, there's just a limitless amount of possibilities that are opened here.
But again, like with the Kinect, it's going to be up to third-party publishers to really harness this. A lot of the problems with things like the Kinect is that the first-party titles and the first-party releases are good, but the third-party developer support is extremely poor. And I think that Microsoft really has the ball in its court with regards to getting the word out there and getting the developers kit out there and really working with third-party developers to integrate this technology.
I agree the same, actually. Like, when it comes down to Kinect, I mean, it really requires a third party because, like, what can Microsoft really do on their own when it comes down to games? You know?
Well, Microsoft can really push the third party.
Yeah.
They can offer some of their technology. They can offer a lot of help. They can possibly, and I'm not sure if this is anything to do with their contract, they can discount some of the licensing fees or the SDK.
They have the money to do that regardless, but for themselves, like when they want to create a game, it's like kind of a rare case. So they have to rely on the third party companies to make something for them. Like, that's how I believe it.
Yeah, a first party studio can only put out so many games per year, and getting the third parties in will really help.
Yeah.
There is one more third party game that I did want to talk about for the Xbox, and that is the South Park game. I forget the subtitle, but
The Stick of Destiny.
The Stick of Destiny, I believe it is. And that one is a real shocker. Because it's a South Park game, and the last one we had was for the N64, I believe. There was a Dreamcast release of the South Park Chef's Love Shack, I believe, but it was a game show and not an FPS.
That was for 64 as well, but like both of them were pretty horrible.
Well, the South Park FPS in general was horrible. The engine was, I could have been written by a first-year computer science freshman. It was terrible. The physics didn't work, and everything was blocky even for the N64. Expansion packed my butt. It didn't need the extra RAM. It needed it because the engine was slow. But let's hope that this offering is a lot better this time around.
And correction, I think it's actually the Stick of Truth. I think I might be mixing it up with the Pick of Destiny, which is a totally different thing.
Also another bad game.
Yeah.
It is the Stick of Truth, actually. We have just checked. It is the Stick of Truth. The Pick of Destiny by Tenacious D was also a terrible game. This proves that if you have a music career, don't poison it. Oh, speaking of music careers and poisoning games. Dance Central 3 was shown at E3 this year. By the worst possible spokesperson they could have possibly chosen. And I say possible a lot of times there because they had so many chances to avert this. They put Usher on stage for Dance Central 3. They should have ushered him off the stage. Why would you get an amazing game like Dance Central 3 and completely ruin it by rapping? Not that rap music is inherently bad. Not that games shouldn't be introduced with maybe some celebrity support. But it felt like Microsoft was really trying to sell us on something where they had nothing.
I think they did say that they wanted to bring Lady Gaga from the start before Usher.
They wanted to bring Lady Gaga in for this?
Yeah.
Why would they bring Lady Gaga in?
I think that would have been a better response if they got Lady Gaga.
Because Lady Gaga does dance, and there are some songs that are inside the game,
Yeah.
actually. Unless you want to hear Every Day I'm Shuffling.
That would have gotten a more positive response. I mean, but Usher, I mean, yeah, the fan response to this was not positive. I mean, I was on Twitter while this whole thing was going down, and everyone was just like, why is Usher on stage? So.
Yeah, they don't really have a lot to market there. But that is it for Microsoft. That covers most of their conference. A lot of focus on the Kinect, a lot of focus on the first-person shooters, which has always been Microsoft's strong point.
And a lot of focus on sports.
That is sort of creeping onto Sony's domain a little bit. But we'll get to that when we discuss Sony and what EA really has to offer in the sports department for Sony after their discussion of the Kinect.